Well, let us get back on the horse here with some fight talks and talk about this coming weekend's UFC fight nights. Tuivasa versus Tybura. Going down, surprise, surprise, at the UFC Apex Saturday, March 16th. Let's talk about the main card of this. Any other fights or fighters on the prelims that you guys want to quickly just shout out?
I mean, there's some decent people on here. Jacqueline Amorim is on this card. Odi Osborne's on this card. Thiago Moises is on this card. The Gerald Meerschaert versus Bryan Barbarena fight is probably going to be a banger.
We're doing that fight.
Some good.
That's the main card.
Is that where it starts?
Is it not? I thought they were opening the main card.
Hold please. Either way, there are some good fights in the on the undercard. No, it starts with Christian Rodriguez. Oh, never mind. They have goddamn fucking sure dog with their list.
No, I agree. There it's actually a solid little collection of prelims. As you said, I'm interested to see Jacqueline Amorim after what we saw from her in her last performance. Obviously, her debut didn't go so well, but then she really put it together last time. Josh Kulabau, I always like to watch. I'm not sure why. I don't know if he had somebody fall out. It's kind of random that he's fighting a debuting fighter. He's been at a pretty solid level lately, but that one, Jafel Filo, I'm interested to see again. And the one that I like the most, I think, just that he's finally back, is Mike Davis. I've always thought Mike Davis has looked like a very solid fighter. He's 3-1 in the UFC so far. The only loss is to Gilbert Burns, and he just kind of disappeared. I don't know what he had going on in his life, but he's back. He's fighting Natan Levy in the featured prelim, and I'm looking forward to see what he looks like.
Nice. Any others? No?
That's it. Let's do it.
Okay, let's go to this.
Yeah, they juggled this bout order, Omar, because that Rodriguez fight used to be 2 higher than it is, and now they moved it.
Yeah, now it's opening.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Wikipedia.
Look at UFC.
Look at UFC.
I don't know. Look at UFC.com. They
I mean, it's the same 6 fights. It's just different order.
Okay. Okay, Christian Rodriguez versus Isaac Dulgarian. Here we go.
Dulgarian.
Dulgarian, excuse me. C-Rod is the 26-year-old out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 10-1 as a pro with 7 finishes, most recently defeating the other hot prospect, Cameron Simon, back in October. He'll be taking on Isaac Dulgarian, the Midwest Choppa, fighting out of Kansas City, Missouri. He is 27 years old, undefeated, 6-0, and 1-0 in the UFC. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of C-Rod taking on the Midwest Choppa.
Yeah, so I thought these odds would be much closer than they are. Isaac Dulgarian is -180, and C-Rod is +150 as the underdog. Measurables are identical. Height's the same. Reach is the same. The weight class is what is notable because it is put up or shut up time here for Christian Rodriguez. He has finally been forced to come up to 145 officially after missing weight in basically every fight he's ever been in. And he is getting a beast right out of the gate because Isaac Dulgarian is kind of a big, strong featherweight, and he does not fuck around. Like, he will come at you. He's strong as hell. He can grapple. He can strike. He can finish you with either of them. So he's getting put against, he's going to feel that size right away in this move to featherweight here. And I don't like him to come out of this one. And I don't want to say like he's not good, because he is good. Constant weight misses or not, he's a well-rounded fighter. He's a skilled fighter. He's shown it. I just think he's going to feel it. I think he's going to feel the physicality in this particular matchup against a guy like Dulgarian. And I'm going to say he gets stopped. And I'm actually going to say round 1. I will go round 1 TKO with ground and pound for Dulgarian.
Omar?
Yeah, this is a rough one, man, because Christian Rodriguez has shown real composure and a real solid base of understanding what he's doing in there over the last couple fights, especially the Rosas Jr. one. We know Rosas is very early in his career. There was a lot of hype and all this other stuff, but the reality was the way that Christian Rodriguez approached that fight and approached the wrestling and the counter wrestling to it, and he did the kind of the same thing against Cameron Simon, showing a really calm approach to the fight, really measured. I really like the way that he fights and the approach to the fight, but the weight difference very well might play a big part in how this fight's going to go. Dulgarian isn't necessarily a bad fighter, right? He's also very skilled as well. And I don't know what that power differential is going to look like at 145. So if this was at 135, I think I would probably be way more apt to go with Christian Rodriguez, but it is very possible that this weight cut or this weight change might be a problem. So I will conservatively go with Dulgarian. I'm going to go with by decision.
Okay. Dude, I'm Team C-Rod because I'm Team Anthony
Rufus
Pettis, as
you.
we know. At this point, I've met Duke Rufus a handful of times. I've met C-Rod. Obviously, I've met Anthony. And yes, we're on a first-name basis.
Hey.
That being said, I'm a big C-Rod guy. I think he has really impressed since his UFC debut when he dropped his first fight to Jonathan Pierce. He's now 3-0 on a 3-fight win streak, since that fight. And he himself is a young, hyped prospect himself, who I think maybe doesn't get enough shine overall. He's 10-1 as a pro. He's only 26 years old. And Cameron Simon is a guy who was a hot prospect. And C-Rod worked him to a UD. So I'm going to keep going with C-Rod to hand another undefeated prospect his first loss as well. Give me C-Rod by another unanimous decision victory.
I'm not writing these down. Need to write.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be big for C-Rod, honestly, if he wins a fight at 145 handedly. I think that'll be really telling.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay, what's the next one?
Meerschaert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gerald Meerschaert taking on Bryan Barbarena. This is going to be a fun one, boys. GM3 is the 36-year-old out of Racine, Wisconsin, 35-17. I'm always a little taken aback by the sheer number of pro bouts on his record. Even though he is not a young prospect, that is a shit ton of fights. 27 wins by submission. Let's not forget his grappling prowess. But he's looking to get back in the win column because he has lost his last two and has lost his last three of his last four. Most recently getting a split decision loss against Andre Petrosky back in August. This time, he'll be standing across from the middleweight version of Bryan Barbarena. Bam Bam, the 34-year-old out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, is 18-11 as a pro with 13 finishes, 11 of them being knockouts. And he, too, will be looking to very much get back in the win column after being on a 3-fight win streak at the hands of RDA at welterweight, Gunnar Nelson at welterweight, and Mahmoud Muradov, which I believe was his first middleweight fight back in July.
Yep.
So he's going to try again here at 185 pounds, this time against the submission threat in Gerald Meerschaert. Omar, give us your thoughts on this fight and who do you think is going to win?
I think this fight is probably going to be one of the messier fights that we're going to see this evening. Probably going to be one of the, I don't want to say sloppy because I don't think sloppy is accurate, but perhaps chaotic might be a bit more apropos. Meerschaert's the kind of guy, man, that will make things messy. He'll make things messy and chaotic because he wants you to make a mistake. He wants to take you down. He wants to find that opportunistic submission, and he wants to get you out of there. Bryan Barbarena is kind of the same, with the exception of his goal being to just pummel you into the ground. So while Meerschaert is trying to submit you, Bryan Barbarena is just trying to tear you apart. So to see both of them try to essentially meet in the center and see which one wins, I think is going to be, like I said, chaotic. As far as where I see this going, I think this is one of those kind of fights where that adage of every fight starts standing, but every fight ends up on the ground. I kind of think that's where this is going to go. And I think once we hit that ground, my money's probably going to be on Meerschaert. So I'm going to go with Meerschaert here, 3rd round submission.
Mark.
Okay, he is favored. Meerschaert, he's minus 240. Barbarena is plus 190. 1 inch of height and 5.5 inches of reach for GM3. I don't like Bryan Barbarena as a middleweight because, yes, the way to beat Gerald is on the feet, which is where Bryan wants to be, but I just don't think he carries the power to 185 to beat guys the way that he needs to beat guys. And on the mat, I just think he's severely outgunned. And personally, same as Omar, I think that's where this one ends up. I think Gerald will be able to use his size. He's going to be the much bigger man. I don't even mean just, the measurables. I mean, it just true size. Also use his reach and be able to crash inside when he wants, safely and get a hold of Bryan and drag this fight down to the ground. And I think it happens more than once. And I just don't think Bryan can survive multiple grappling exchanges with Meerschaert. So I will go submission as well. I'll say round 2.
Can you say that again? Or you broke up a little bit for me.
Submission round 2 for Meerschaert.
Well, we are in a consensus for this one. I totally agree, dude. I was going to say the exact same thing, probably not as eloquently. That I don't love middleweight for Bam Bam here. I understand that he's a big guy for welterweight, but I don't think he's a big enough guy for middleweight, and I don't think he has the attributes to make up for that lack in size. I don't think Meerschaert is giving up any size to Bryan Barbarena. If anything, he might be the bigger man, the more physically imposing man, and his skill set, I think he's just going to be too skillful for Barbarena as well. I totally agree. I'm going to go with Meerschaert with a round 2 sub.
Nice.
Thank you. What's next?
The ladies.
Kianzad versus Chiasson.
Yeah.
Okay. In the women's bantamweight division, Pannie Kianzad, Banzai.
Oh, no, wait. Actually, fuck it. Oh, no, I'm right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Taking on Macy Chiasson. So Kianzad, the 32-year-old out of Sweden, 16-7 as a pro with 3 knockouts on her record. Coming off of a loss against Ketlin Vieira back in July, looking to get over on Macy Chiasson, who's the 32-year-old fighting out of New Orleans, Louisiana. She's 8-3 as a professional with 2 knockouts and 2 submissions on her record. Also looking to get back in the win column after getting knocked out by Irene Aldana back in September of 2022, making her return against the Swede. Omar, start it off. Give us your take and your pick.
Shit, I didn't even realize she's been gone since 2022. That's crazy. Yeah, can't forget that finish though from Irene Aldana with that rare bear upkick to the liver. I mean, we're probably never going to see that again ever in the history of anything. So Hopefully you watched it. It's an interesting fight. Mecy Chiasson has always obviously been the more physically imposing woman. She's also been the one to have, if I remember correctly, the weight issues as well. I think she's had some issues at 135, obviously less so at 145, but that is the division that shall not be named anymore at this point. So she's only had one. It felt like more than one, but it was only to Raquel. So anyway, Chiasson is obviously going to be the bigger girl, I would imagine. Definitely the more imposing girl, both, not just her height, but also her reach, her length in her legs as well. The woman is very, very tall, or visibly tall, I guess, especially when you step in front of some of the women that she fights in that division. It is... I've never necessarily been impressed with Mecy Chiasson when it comes to her technique. I think she has taken advantage of the physical abilities that she has and the physical advantages that she's had, but I think she is a very beatable fighter from the performances that she's had. I would say the same about Kianzad. I'm not really sold on either one of them, for being 100% honest. I think at the end of the day, I do think that those physical attributes are going to work in Chiasson's favor. I don't know if I expect anything magical out of this fight, but I do think Chiasson walks away with the decision unanimous.
Mark?
So almost same exact odds as last fight. The favorite is minus 230, which is Macy. The underdog is plus 190 in Pannie. 4 inches of height and 6 inches of reach for Chiasson. This is a rematch. I don't know if either of you guys mentioned that. Sorry if you already said that.
Did not.
But Macy beat Pannie back in 2018 in a pretty solid scrap where she ended up choking her out. And I think she can turn Pannie back again here. I think it will look somewhat similar to the performance we saw from Macy over Norman Dumont. She'll lean on the reach. She's the more physical of the two. If one is hurting the other, I think it's likely that it's Macy doing the hurting. She'll use her kicks, which I think is going to be a big difference, whereas Pannie is just more so a straight-up boxer. And let's not forget the way that Macy was putting it on Irene Aldana in round 2 of that fight before getting stopped by the crazy up kick heel to the body. So she can do some damage, and I trust her more to get this one done, and I will take her to win a UD.
Okay. I agree with Omar on this one as well. I think that Chiasson is going to be the more well-rounded fighter, and I got to take her by a unanimous decision as well, and keeping this thing moving right along. Which one's next?
Kennedy.
Ah, yes. Ooh,
This has
I
got to
love
be the
this
craziest
fight.
odds of the whole card.
They ain't
Yeah,
close.
Yeah, which is crazy.
We have OSP taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. So, Ovince St. Preux, 40 years old, out of Knoxville, Tennessee, 26 and 17 as a pro, with 12 knockouts and 8 submission victories on his record, coming off a loss against Felipe Lins by knockout back in February. So, over a year layoff for OSP. Returning against the very exciting Kennedy Nzechukwu, the American Savage. Did he change his nickname? I think he did.
Yeah, what? Since when to see
Wasn't
that?
it the African Savage?
I don't think it was that either.
I'm pretty sure it was the African Savage.
I don't know.
Okay. 31 years old, out of Dallas, Texas, 12-4 as a pro, with 9 finishes, 8 of them being knockouts. Also coming off of a loss, his against Dustin Jacoby back in August, a TKO in the first round as well. So both men coming off first round knockouts. Mark, start us off. Give us the odds and your pick.
Yeah, Mike. Tapology has African Savage.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt, but it is African Savage. Very odd that.
But Sherdog has American Savage, so I wonder which one is right.
He might have changed it recently.
Yeah, I think he. Am I? No, now I'm forgetting. I want to say he was born in America.
He is. He has Nigerian descent, but I think he was born and raised in the U.S.
Maybe he was going with African and then decided he is going to switch to American. Could be.
Maybe enough white play-by-play commentators have been like, bro, your nickname gives me chills and sweats. Like, you're going to get me fired.
Oh, no. He was born in Nigeria, dude.
Oh, he was? Oh, shit.
Yeah, he was born in Nigeria and moved with his family in 2010. So he was there for a minute before he moved.
Oh, so I don't know who I'm thinking of then. I fucked that one up. Okay. Well, anyway, did you pitch it to me? Should I talk?
Go, Mark.
You were right. The odds are wide. Kennedy is minus 575 and Ovince is plus 425. Only 2 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Kennedy in this fight. So he doesn't have nearly the same length advantage that he usually does, since OSP is a pretty big dude himself. But man, I know OSP has some skills that could conceivably make this interesting if you talk it out, but I just don't see myself picking a 40-year-old Ovince St. Preux. I mean, he's 3-6 in his last 9 fights. He's 1-3 in his last 4. All 3 of those losses are by knockout or TKO. And I hate to not offer more of a breakdown than this, but I just don't think he's going to be able to stand up to Kennedy's shots. So I think it's a knockout. And if it goes any other way, I'm going to be pretty surprised. I will go Kennedy round 2 KO.
Omar.
Yeah. I think Kennedy has shown a little bit more consistency in comparison to OSP. I also think that Kennedy has a little bit more handle on his defense than OSP does. OSP's defense has always sketched me out. He's the kind of guy that likes to throw his arms out into the middle of space and hope that you hit his arms and not his face. It's not great defense. I'm surprised it works for him as much as it does. It's very similar to how sometimes Sean Strickland defends strikes. We don't really give Sean Strickland shit for it because he won a belt off of it. OSP is not the same. And I trust Kennedy to get through that fight with less damage than OSP. I trust him to have more defense in there than OSP. And in turn, I expect him to land bigger shots against OSP than in return, than the other way around. So, long story short, I think Kennedy Nzechukwu wins KO round 1.
Okay. We are unanimous once again on this one. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think at this point, OSP, he's been up and down for quite a bit in his career. And now he's 40, taking on a much younger guy in Nzechukwu, who's a real knockout artist in his own right. So I'm going to take Nzechukwu. I'll take him round 2 knockout. Okay, let's go to the co-main between Bryan Battle and Ange Loosa. I'm saying his first name right? Is it Ange?
Ange.
Excuse me. Bryan the Butcher Battle, 29 years old, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Out of his 12 pro bouts, he is 10-2 with 8 finishes, 5 of them being submissions, riding back-to-back wins coming into this Saturday night. Ange Loosa, the last ninja, 30 years old, fighting out of the Republic of the Congo, 10-3 as a pro with 5 knockouts, also riding back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. Mark, give us the odds and your pick.
Battle is the favorite. He's -175. Is it Loosa or Losa? I guess it's Loosa, right? I can't remember how they said it, but he is the underdog. He is +145. 3 inches of height and 3 inches of reach for Bryan Battle. And I'm picking Bryan Battle, but damn, can we move past these types of fights for Bryan before he loses one of them by accident? Like, the dude is 5-1 in the UFC. Like, we should be past this. And honestly, Ange is a big, strong boy who carries some power, and it is MMA, and anything can happen. So, like, this could be one of those fights. So I just wish Battle was getting bigger name opponents than this with a 5-1 UFC record, and looking as good as he's looked. But I am going to roll with him. I mean, round 1 could be back and forth, but I think these are 2 fighters that go 2 different ways. I think that Ange typically tends to get hit more as his fight goes on. I mean, think about the way he was beating up Reese McKee until that fight switched. And I think Battle really settles in as his fights go on and starts to pick guys apart a bit more. And I'm going to pick it to play out that way. I think Battle will start to wear on him as we move into round 2, into round 3, and pick him apart a bit. And I will say he finds a sub late. I will go round 3 sub for Bryan Battle.
Omar.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more hesitant to pick a finish. I definitely thought about it. Bryan Battle is really good with his finishes. That man is not in there contently looking to go for decisions. He is constantly trying to find a finish, especially if it's there. So I definitely thought about a finish. It's just hard for me to pick a finish against a guy as physically imposing as Ange Loosa, on top of the fact that that man's also still never been finished at all. So I don't think this is the one to do it in. I'm totally about it. If Bryan Battle kicks him in the face and knocks him out, definitely be there for it. But I just don't see that happening. I'm going to go with Bryan Battle instead by unanimous decision.
Dude, battle has looked too good. I totally hear you, Mark, on like if he accidentally loses one.
Yeah.
But he has looked so good as of late, especially. I'm gonna go with him, and I'm gonna say he gives Ang I can't say his goddamn name. Say it
Ange.
again. Ange Loosa, his first knockout loss. Also, he knocks him out in the third round. Here we go into the main event. UFC Fight Night Tuivasa versus Tybura. Tuivasa taking on Marcin Tybura. Tuivasa, the second man on this card, whose nickname is Bam Bam. 14 wins, 6 defeats. 13 of his 14 wins are by knockout. Neglected to mention he's 30 years old, fighting out of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. He's very, very badly looking to get back in his winning form after dropping 3 fights in a row to Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, and Alexander Volkov. And this Saturday, he will be trying to right the ship by facing off against Marcin Tybura, who is the 38-year-old out of Poland, 24-8 as a pro with 9 knockouts, another 6 submission victories added to that. Coming off of a TKO loss to the great Tom Aspinall back in July. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of this main event bout between Marcin Tybura and Tai Tuivasa.
You know, you want to have more confidence in Tai Tuivasa. Everybody loves Tai Tuivasa. He's obviously been very inconsistent, to say the least, over his last few fights, but he's also been fighting really good guys, right? He lost to Cyril Gane. He lost to Sergey Pavlovich. He lost to Alexander Volkov. All guys that, frankly, are probably the worst goddamn matchups for Tai Tuivasa on, like, all fronts. Marcin Tybura, I think, is less of that. I do think Marcin Tybura presents, obviously, issues, right? There is a submission component that I think Tai Tuivasa could have a real issue with, a ground component in general that Tai could have a very big issue with. But Tybura likes to stand. He likes to stand and he likes to trade. And I think if he fucks around too much in the stand-up, I think he's liable to find out. So it's a very big possibility that Tybura, takes it down to the ground at some point, especially after he gets tagged a couple times. But it's, when do I pick against Tai Tuivasa? So I won't be doing that today. We'll be going Tai Tuivasa KO round 2.
Mark.
Sorry, I'm recording Omar's pick. Okay. Odds are very close. Tai is barely favored. He's minus 125. Tybura is plus 105. 1 inch of height and 3 inches of reach for Tybura. I'm going to trust Tai. I know that Marcin Tybura can wrestle and that he may look for it very exclusively in this particular matchup to avoid throwing hands with Tai. And I know it's possible for Tai to get out wrestled, but he is a dog. He battles. He finds ways out of bad spots. And even if he does have to navigate an early takedown or two, I don't think I view Marcin Tybura as a guy who is skilled enough on the feet to not eat a Tai bomb at some point in this fight. Because he finds ways to land his... I mean, he even landed on Cyril Gane. If you recall that fight, obviously he got mostly smoked in it. But my point is, he will find a way to land some big ones at certain points. And I don't know that Tybura can avoid them enough in this fight. He's not the same level of striker that Tai has been across from in his last 3 fights here at all. I think the striking advantage has flipped here for Tai. And I think he knows it. And I think he's going to be aggressive, looking to end this losing streak. I think he rips low kicks on Tybura. I think he walks forward, tries to trap him, tries to corner him, and eventually just unloads. And I'm going to say he hurts him and flattens him. I will go Tuivasa round 2 knockout.
I agree. I think that this has to be a Tai Tuivasa win here. If this is not a Tai Tuivasa win, I will go into a few hours of a depressed state. And then I'll go to bed and I'll wake up and have to get on with my life. But no offense to Marcin Tybura. But I don't want to live in a world where Ty is losing to him. I just don't.
Yeah.
I just don't, man. Ty Tuivasa. It's going to be a scrap in the first round. I'm going to say Ty's going to get him out of there in the first. Ty Tuivasa knockout round 1.
Nice.